Hurricanes preview for 2019 Super Rugby. It's a pretty strong looking Hurricane squad, although there are a few shifts in some of the names. They've lost some kind of important players from last season, and it's, I suppose, hard to argue that this year's squad's going to be better, but I'll let you guys give me your thoughts on that as well, because yeah, just because guys are coming in new doesn't mean they're not going to be better, but they've definitely lost a few. I will start with the guys they've lost, then we'll have a look at some of the guys who've been brought in, the fixtures, and yeah, we'll share some thoughts on it at the end. So, guys that have gone out, Marcel Renata has gone to the Blues, Murray Douglas has gone to the Brumbies, Michael Fadialofa has gone over to England. Those are probably, in terms of, Fadialofa, that's one area that you may think the Hurricanes perhaps could have benefited from retaining some players. Brad Shields to Wasps, Blade Thompson to Scarlets, Jamie Booth to the Sunwolves, but I think Shields and Thompson again are probably the bigger losses there, because you still got Perenara, but Shields was your starting 6 last year, captain. And Blade Thompson, when fit, was very good at number 8. Very handy line-out operator as well. Ihai West's gone abroad. There was kind of no surprises there. He was always going to be back up to Bowden Barrett. Peter Umaga Jensen is out injured for the year. Julian Savia left to go to Toulon, but as has been discussed in great detail, do I want to say a shadow of the player he used to be, or just not the same player he used to be? Either way. Wasn't able to have the same impact as we historically know he can. If you were talking about an impact winger from the Hurricanes last year, you weren't talking about Julian Savia. And key perhaps is Coach Chris Boyd has gone over to coach in Northampton. So yeah, it's a pretty big set of changes, but it's still a very good looking squad. So who's left? Props. Fraser Armstrong, Chris Eves, Alex Fidel, Ben May, Toby Smith, and Jeff Tumunga-Allen. So there's no new additions there. But Tumunga-Allen's leaving at the end of the season. It's not a really strong propping lineup, but it's not bad by any means. It's not an all-black front row. But, Tumunga-Allen's had a couple of caps. Toby Smith's played for the Wallabies, so... Yep. Hookers... Here's where there's probably a bit of extra depth. Asafa Amua, Dane Coles, and Ricky Riccatelli. Coles pretty much set out all of last season, just played a few games for the All Blacks at the end of the year. When he's on form, he's one of the best number 2s in the world. Asafa Amua has got potential to the point where the All Blacks want him playing ASAP, and Ricky Riccatelli seems to be a bit forgotten about, but he's filled in for Dane Coles for long periods now at the Hurricanes, and he's been a very able replacement. So some people don't like him. I think he's pretty good. Second row is perhaps an area where I think there's a bit lacking, because you got James Blackwell, Jeff Cridge has come in from the Mitre 10 Cup, Sam Lousy and Liam Mitchell again from the Mitre 10 Cup. There's no Brody Retallick, Sam Whitelock, Patrick Tuipulotu kind of figure here. So it's the one area where I would look at the Hurricanes and go, you need to have someone, who's going to bust things up. Isaiah Walker-Leawere, I think, can play in the second row as well from memory, so we'll see if he gets deployed there. From memory, he had a pretty good Mitre 10 Cup. Hayden Beardwell-Curtis has come across from the Crusaders. This is getting into loose forwards. Vaya Fafita can play in the second row as well, but again, he wants to play in the All Blacks and he wants to play at number 6. Sam Henwood, Duplessis Karifi, who had a pretty good Mitre 10 Cup as well. He's coming through. Reed Prinsep, very good. Adi Savia, very good. And Gareth Evans. So loose forwards, the Hurricanes look really good. The propping stocks are okay. Hookers are very good. And the locks, bit of a question mark. But again, you guys let me know your thoughts there. To the backs is where Hurricanes have historically been strong. And it kind of makes them a lot of people's second favourite team, at least here in New Zealand, because even if they lose, the Hurricanes generally play attractive rugby, and in recent years they've been playing winning rugby as well. Scrum halves, Finlay Christie, Richard Judd, and TJ Perenara. TJ will be getting the start. It'll be between Judd and Christie to see who plays backup. Number 10 is Bowden Barrett, Jackson Garden-Bishop, who was there last year and kind of was competing with Ihia West for that backup job. And Fletcher Smith has come over from the Highlanders, and he also had an impressive Mitre 10 Cup campaign. Midfielders. Vince Aso, Wes Husson. Wes Husson plays wing as well. But Nani Lamapi, Billy Proctor from the Mitre 10 Cup. He is the younger brother of Matt Proctor, who was also there. So which combo they go with is probably Lamapi and Proctor. Aso, maybe. They need to keep them fit because they had issues with injuries last season. But yeah, any team with Lamapi in it is going to be going forward at a pretty high rate of knots. Outside backs, Ben Lamb, who was the absolute star of Super Rugby, especially the first half of last season. Jonah Lowe, James Marshall's come back from England. Celestia Reasi's been signed up from the Mitre 10 Cup. Geordie Barrett, is he going to play still at 15? Because he wants to play 12, but he always gets deployed at 15. I think he's had a bit of time at 13, but supposedly 12 is where he wants to play. And he only signed a one-year extension with the Hurricanes, I think partly because of that reason. So where he's deployed remains a question. And there's also Niki Milner-Skudder. He's going abroad at the end of the year. Can he keep fit in a World Cup year? Keep his own World Cup chances alive? Question. John Plumtree, who is stepping up from assistant to be the full-time, the head coach for this year. Plenty of experience. Coached the Sharks before, so yeah, hopefully he's got a plan for the boys. And interestingly, after he got the job last year, a bunch of guys signed contract extensions with the Hurricanes. So he seems to have buy-in from the players, which is already half the battle in your coaching job. So he's got a pretty darn good set of players. A lot of teams would look at this lineup and be pretty envious. So whether he can, I guess, shore up some of the areas where perhaps they are a bit lacking will be a question. Because I remember there was one game last year, I think it was Hurricanes Crusaders, when it was wet, and the Hurricanes just didn't look like they weren't at the races. So yeah, they're going to need to be able to play kind of tight as well as pretty, I guess, is a question. Last year, how did they do? They finished 4th overall, but 2nd on points. So due to the conference system, they were the highest non-conference winner. So that finishes in 4th. 11 wins and 5 losses. So yeah, it was a pretty good overall effort, but not good enough to get to a final. So they have got a new coach, which is going to be interesting. But how's their schedule looking? Well, they start away at the Waratahs and away at the Crusaders. So, I mean, last year they started away at the Bulls and they got beaten. So, yeah, I suppose they're going to want to get out of the blocks a bit quicker over there in Sydney. But away to the Crusaders is going to be tough. And then they are at home in round 3 to the Brumbies, but it's in Palmerston North. So they're not back in Wellington until week 4, which is, I guess, a fairly long time to be away from your proper home. But yeah, they've got the bye kind of reasonably placed in the 9th week, so they get a bunch of rugby under their belt, get a break, another bunch of fixtures, another break, and then the tail end of the season. But it is that first stint that you think is going to be kind of setting them up for that second half, because Crusaders away, Brumbies at home, Highlanders at home, Chiefs away. That's all pretty tough. Although the Highlanders aren't the best travelling team, you'd still back the Hurricanes to beat them when they're playing in Wellington. But hey, they lost the Super Rugby final there, so you never know. Stormers at home, Crusaders at home, Highlanders away. Yeah, it's a tough 8 games. If they get off to a poor start, then Plumtree is going to be under a lot of pressure as new coach. Bye in week 9, I like that. Sunwolves away, Chiefs at home, so that's a trip they probably didn't need to have immediately. I suppose they can head to Japan early as one bonus, but then yeah, back to New Zealand to play the Chiefs, the Rebels, Blues away, Jaguars at home. And then they've got the bye right before their trip to South Africa, which actually works pretty well. If they want to leave early and get adjusted to the time zones, they have that opportunity to do that. So Sharks and Lions away, it's pretty tough. But with the South African teams, none of them look like easy beats this year. So could be better, could be worse. Probably all much of a muchness. I suppose at least one's at altitude and one's not. Finishing off the season with the Blues at home. So if you are in need of securing points in that last game, that's a pretty safe bet that the Blues aren't going to beat the Canes down in Wellington, but you never know. The teams they avoid are the Bulls and the Reds. So again, they might have liked to avoid different teams, but at the end of the day, you still got to beat all comers to be Super Rugby champion anyway. But yeah, in terms of starts for John Plumtree as new coach, it's kind of one of my questions about what's going to happen with the Hurricanes this year. Is how is he going to go? It's a tough start. So how's John Plumtree going to go is a question for me. How are their locks and their forwards going to go generally? Because like I said, that game against the Crusaders, I'm pretty sure it was the Crusaders. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they just couldn't get their foot in the door. And it's just forwards dominance that they were lacking. So that's going to be something for John Plumtree to really work on. And just avoiding those slip-up results. Like last year, there were times when the Hurricanes looked absolutely... Like I had them top of my power rankings. They looked just the business. But then they slipped up with the Bulls that first week. They slipped up with the Brumbies. They almost lost that game against the Sharks. They had that miraculous comeback where they won it in like... way over time with Ihai West's kick. So yeah, that's something again, consistency. The Crusaders showed it. The Crusaders dropped a couple of games and then from then on they just looked kind of ironclad. But the Hurricanes never quite got to that point last season. Ben Lamb, like I said, was very exciting at the start of last year. People were talking about whether he was a possibility for an All Blacks pick, but the All Blacks didn't even really have him in that kind of conversation. So yeah, can he repeat that magic form from last year? It did tail off towards the end of last season. Like he only ended up the top equal try scorer. He didn't end up blitzing it. Like it looked like he was going to set all kinds of new records, but he was able to be kind of, I guess, contained a bit better by the opposition teams. The bookies do have the Hurricanes as the second favorite. So not putting too much concern in some of those areas that I have, but yeah, it's a squad that's missing a few key players. Some guys from the Mitre 10 Cup are going to be called upon and need to step up. There's 8 weeks till they start the schedule, and they're going to have to hit the ground running pretty quickly, because if they do fall behind, it is going to be tough. But looking at that squad, you would still back the Hurricanes to be a playoff team. Are they going to top the Crusaders for the New Zealand Conference? I wouldn't have thought so. But between them, the Chiefs, and the Highlanders, you would have thought they're going to be well competitive for the top kind of wildcard spot. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on how the Hurricanes might go this year. Are you looking forward to seeing John Plumtree in charge? Any of the new players you're looking forward to seeing? Any of the guys who have left you're particularly disappointed in? And yeah, I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.